All right. Hey, first up, as reported by Deadline, Mike Tyson is drawing concerns from his boxing peers over his Jake Paul fight. And I bring this up because whether you call him Iron Mike, Kid Dynamite, or the baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson is regarded as one of the greatest heavyweight boxers of all time. And that is a recognition, a title that began in the 1980s. In fact, specifically on November 22nd, 1986, at just 20 years old. Again, I always think back, like, what was I doing at 20? Nothing of any value.
Not whipping ass like Mike, you weren't.
Yeah. Meanwhile, at 20, without the benefit of the college education that I was going through, it didn't help me with anything. He became the youngest heavyweight champion in history with a second-round knockout of Trevor Berbick. And he reigned as the undisputed world heavyweight champion from 1987 all the way through 1990, winning his first 19 professional fights by knockout.
Wow.
12 of them in the first round.
Yep.
Now, look, when I was a kid growing up, my dad watched boxing, so I watched boxing, and I was into it. I'm talking about pre-Tyson, starting in the 70s and so on. And then, with the advent of HBO, and they'd have these title fights, some big matchup, or, we'd watch those together too as well. But when Mike Tyson started boxing, it seemed like, just like we talk about country music, everybody in my circle, at least, was suddenly a boxing fan. Certainly the guys that I knew. And now suddenly they were not only interested in watching Mike Tyson, but people were working out. People wanted to box one another. We had sort of a fight club of sorts in my basement for a short time.
Oh my gosh.
You're not allowed to talk about that, Will. Didn't you get the rules?
Don't talk about it.
The fourth rule is after 20 years, you can talk about it.
Oh, I didn't know about that one. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't get to that. But anyway, so he was a phenom, and beyond just the titles, John would know, right? Obviously, the port of Punch-Out, or Super Punch-Out, became Mike Tyson's Punch-Out when it came to Nintendo in, I think it was, 87 or something like that.
Yeah, 87, 88, right at the beginning. Yep.
Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff put out a song, I Think I Can Beat Mike Tyson, in 1989. And I remember among my friends, we would have this conversation because, whoever he would fight against, it was usually these pay-per-views that Don King would put together. That whoever he was fighting would get millions of dollars just to enter the ring.
Yeah.
And so a question, I don't know if this reached you guys where you grew up, but a question among my peers was, would you take X $million just to let him punch you? Because that's basically what's going to happen.
That's what.
Right. And he's not going to punch you very many times, was the good news.
Yeah, right. But that one time could change your life.
I remember watching those. You're right. Sometimes with pay-per-view, HBO had it for a while, and there was like this bell curve of people. It was like, first he was fighting to like earn his stripes, and then he was fighting all the big boys, and then it felt like a few competitors on the backside of the bell curve were just there to cash the check. They were like, "Are you really qualified?" And you'd go in and fight, and you better enjoy the undercard because it might last 45 seconds, and it was a thrilling 45 seconds. But he came out of that corner like a machine. And was just tight and low and just crush people. It was fun to watch. I was never a boxing fan before or really after, but during that window, I wanted to see every fight he had.
Oh, yeah, it's the energy. Yeah, it's just terrifying. Kat?
I wasn't a boxing fan. I don't even know that I watched any boxing whatsoever. Wrestling, yes. But you couldn't help but know about it. You could not help but hear about Mike Tyson. And I think my dad saw him fight in Atlantic City. And he came home with some trophy. It looked like a little barbell.
Your father bought him and won? Was it a belt? Was it like a belt? Like a big...
He came with a little belt, a big trophy full of money. It was a little fight he had in Atlantic City.
Suddenly we went out for dinner a lot after that.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Was your father Buster Douglas?
Every day. I can afford it.
Yes,
Did he have?
Could afford a lot.
Were both of your father's ears intact?
No.
That means he won.
Some little souvenir thing. Couldn't help but hear about it.
To be fair, Tyson is not without his controversy. Of course, in 1992, he was convicted of sexual assault and was sentenced to 6 years in prison, although he was released on parole after just 3. But now, at age 57, he hasn't fought in decades, and he's better known for playing comic versions of himself, like in the Hangover films.
Yeah.
Tyson has raised concerns that he's making a big mistake by returning to boxing. Now, if you don't know, he is set to fight a YouTube sensation. I say this, this brings me no joy to say that Jake Paul is a YouTube sensation, but he's set to fight him on July 20th. And just recently, it's no longer, it was deemed no longer an exhibition, which is what it was when they first went into it. It has since been commissioned by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulations as a professional fight.
Huh. Wow.
And I think, well, what does that matter? Well, the stakes literally have been increased as a result. Tyson's opponent, this Jake Paul, is only 27 years old, so 30 years his junior, is 9-1 in a career with 6 knockouts against a mix of celebrities and middling fighters, sort of what John was suggesting about Tyson's sort of some parts of his career, which were criticized. That Don King was just putting up against people this for the payday. They knew they could get a big payday from pay-per-view, and somebody was happy to take a punch for millions of dollars. His only loss, punch me. Look, if you're not trained, you could die. Right? One punch, you could.
But if I don't die, I'll be a millionaire.
Yeah, I guess that's the chance you're taking, right?
Risk management.
I could buy a lot of bandages for $1 million.
You didn't have to buy one of those speak and says or speak and spells.
Speak and spell.
Jake Paul's only loss was a split decision to Tommy Fury, who's the brother of the current heavyweight champion Tyson Fury. Despite Paul's lack of top opponents and Tyson's 56 record with 44 knockouts, there's still a concern among the boxer's peers that he may get his ass handed to him, or just get maybe get hurt. Former champ Deontay Wilder told this to Sportsbook Review. He said, "I think it's bad the commission has licensed Mike Tyson because he hasn't been active." Has licensed Mike Tyson since he hasn't been active in 20 years. They shouldn't just license him because of who he is. That's how people get hurt. God forbid he gets hurt. So what he's suggesting is he's being permitted to fight in this now, sanctioned fight because, with the blessing of the commission that's granted him a license, which they didn't have to. And probably if he was someone who hadn't fought in 19 years and wasn't Mike Tyson, he'd have to otherwise prove themselves to get in the ring.
Right.
But no. So in that sense, I could see his concerns. But if you watch on social media, Tyson's been posting his workout videos. And he still has power and skills. In fact, I've seen a bunch of boxers comment that power is the last thing to go when you're a fighter, even as you age. But as Wilder points out, he also needs stamina, and that's what he's worried about. That he may just lose energy during the fight and be, outpaced by this younger competitor and look like a, quote, clown.
I could relate to that. Yeah, I could see getting worn out after a couple laps around the ring. Whew, need a breather.
I guess Jake Paul, if he's smart, and nothing he does suggests to me that he's smart, that he would rope-a-dope him like Muhammad Ali would do, and let Tyson wear himself out, and then take advantage of him in his weakened state, because he could probably run circles around him, literally.
Just do the Three Stooges fight, because kind of go whoop, 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 just run in circles and make noises whoop, whoop, until he passes out from exhaustion.
And Jake Paul's a good few inches, if not several inches, taller. Certainly heavier, bigger than Tyson generally. He could probably just put his head, put his hand on his head and let Tyson swing away for a few minutes, and then Hadouken.
But what I say, Tyson comes in low and tight. He wants to be shorter. Yeah. He always got squat down, even on fighters that were same height. I think that's going to be to his benefit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not as worried as Tyson's peers.
Neither.
I have no special knowledge, certainly, but except for the fact that having been a witness, I guess, to many of his fights, and certainly to this day, be able to see his continued passion. With regard to the fight now having been licensed, however, Paul says that although he respects the champ, quote, as soon as it turned into a pro fight, one of us has to die, end quote.
What?
Now,
smack talk.
So now, yes, let's make smack talk for Jake Paul. Now, this reminds me of an interview I once saw with Mike Tyson, and I couldn't find it, but it's from a couple of decades ago. I think he was being interviewed by a female journalist, and she asked him what he was thinking when he entered the ring. He said, "I was thinking about killing my opponent." And then the interviewer asked a follow-up question saying, "Well, how did you feel after you won?" He said, "I felt sad because I didn't get to follow through."
Okay.
Now, I believe that. In Tyson's history, he's told stories about before that boxing saved him from being in prison because he would walk around wanting to kill somebody. In fact, at some point, again, this is going years back, there was a boxer who did kill his opponent in the ring, and Tyson said he regretted that it wasn't him that had done that.
Okay, this makes me even more, I want to say perplexed. While I was reading about this, I felt like, these people are worried about Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And I have not followed his career closely, but I've never gotten the impression that there were so many people that were fond of him or so worried about him.
Oh.
And he's choosing to do this. No one's forcing him to be in this situation. So I feel like, okay, whatever happens. I'm not worried about him, and I'm also not worried about him because he's not someone that I feel warm and fuzzy about, I think is what I'm trying to get at here.
I think, Kat, in the years following his conviction, he served his time. After that, he started like this self-deprecation tour where he started to not be so closed off and make a bit of light fun of himself. He was Will said in the Hangover films. I think there's multiple of them.
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
It's almost like he took a page out of the William Shatner book of, like, for the first part of his career, he was, I don't want to talk to people and fans, shut up about Star Trek, it's stupid. And be like, oh, that didn't work well for you, did it? Oh, let me actually, okay, I take it back. Let's be friendly kind of thing. So Mike Tyson has kind of endeared himself a bit after the fact. In his later years, I think he's mellowed probably. And he's also become more self-aware, whereas he probably wasn't. He was pretty much in his bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with Brandon. He says, I hope Jake Paul gets that ass kicked. Even my 10-year-old son just said he hopes Tyson wins. Goes to show you how Tyson transcends generations. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Miss So says, pretty sure Paul is no threat to Tyson. I'm no fan. I just want to see a Gen Xer in the ring knock out Paul.
Nice.
Yeah, okay.
Jake Paul's going to get a little how do you do, I think. He's going to first punches go, oh, so this is boxing.
How do you do?
You remind me of another line from Tyson. Tyson said something like, everybody's tough until they get punched in the mouth.
Until they get punched in the mouth.
Right.
Yep. I love that.
Well, everyone has a plan. Yeah,
everyone has
a plan. That's what it is.
Everyone has a plan. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Kathy's predicting Tyson in 3. I hope it doesn't go that long, Kathy.
1. I give him 1.